the dynamic duo of Amorphis with me. How are you guys?
Fine, thank you. Yeah, not too bad.
Speaking of new Amorphis, so Queen of Time, what inspired the album's title?
Well, the title came from the one song, from the lyrics, and of course every time you do an album it's really important to have a catchy kind of title for the album, and it's not that easy to find the right one, but this one comes from the lyrics, and I think it's quite simple, it's quite easy to understand, even for people outside English-speaking countries, so it's a great title, and it works pretty well with the cover art.
I did see on the cover, the Q has got a slightly longer sort of bit at the end. Is that a nod to Queen?
Actually, we noticed that well, and we said to the cover artist that, hey, come on. But he refused to change it.
What about, because the actual Queen of Time is symbolized by the bee, is that correct?
Yeah, kind of.
So what does the bee symbol mean for you? Because obviously it's on the cover art and it's a big part of the record.
Well, the guy who did the lyrics, Pekka Kainulainen, I think the bee is really important. But I think the main reason that he used bee as an inspiration is that sometimes the smallest thing can be the most important thing, and that's the metaphor for the bee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Because if all the bees die, I think the whole life in this planet will die.
So you guys also returned with Jens Bogren as well. Why did you guys make that decision? Because he's quite a collaborative producer, I've heard.
Yeah, but the previous album we did with him, Under the Red Cloud, we were really satisfied with the album, and all the feedback we got from the fans and from the press was really positive, and we totally wanted to continue working with him, and it's not the easiest way to work because we have to travel to Sweden, and he's really picky when it comes to producing things. But on the other hand, the quality that he can bring to the band, it's so huge that we wanted to have him on the album, and it's not that obvious that you can work with him because his methods are quite brutal in a way. Okay. And of course he's really hot producer at the moment. He's been doing great albums during the years, and luckily he wanted to have another one with us, so we are still a little bit amazed how great work he did again.
It's amazing, honestly. I think would you say it's one of your most progressive albums?
Well, being a singer in a band, it's really difficult to say is it more progressive than the previous one, but of course there are lots of progressive elements, rhythm structures, and there are different parts on the band, parts of the songs, and so it is quite progressive, but still I think it's more like metal than progressive metal.
Okay. What do you think?
What was the question?
Do you think it's kind of a more progressive album?
In a way, I think there is the biggest surprises are probably the orchestra and choir arrangements there, but as Tomi told, that it's there's a different rhythm patterns that might give a progressive feeling there, and but in our catalog, for our ears, it's definitely a bit more progressive than the previous one. I don't know what is progressive, but within the Amorphis world, I guess it's progressive.
What about for the two of you? What was it that you wanted to kind of bring to this album musically?
Musically, I think when we wrote the songs, we pretty much did it like always, and I guess we just hoped to go to studio and make a great new album. We knew that the songs were really strong, what we already had. Tomi did some pre-production with vocals before the actual recordings as well, so there was really promising stuff coming up there as well. So we knew that it's gonna be a good album, but it's really hard to tell when you start to record the album. Is it going to be better than the previous one? Because you never know. But I think when we heard the final mixes with all the additional guests there and the orchestra and choir arrangement, it sounded really huge and massive to us. So then we knew that it's definitely going to be different kind of an album than Under the Red Cloud, the previous one.
What about you? You've got some amazing vocal parts on the album, man.
Oh yeah, and it took lots of time and it wasn't that easy. I had some problems with my voice when I was doing the crawl parts.
Oh, really?
But that's the part of the job if you are a singer. It doesn't work always that well. But when I'm listening the album, it sounds great, and I have to thank Jens Bogren for kicking my ass again.
Well, is he quite like a hard ass as a producer?
Well, he knows that he's really hard, and he knows what he wants, and he knows the ways how he will get it.
Okay. In terms of inspiration, where do your kind of inspirations lie as an instrumentalist?
Well, it's it's a bit cliche, but of course, you know, it comes for us. It comes from the Finnish nature, and I guess the whole landscape where we live and where we are isolated. So, but sometimes, you know, when you start to write music, nothing comes out, and then you shouldn't do anything. Like, you know, for sure, you need a right state of mind when you start to write music. That's why it's like we spoke it before, but for us, I guess it would be impossible to write anything like on tour, for example.
What do you think of the state of melodic death metal in 2018?
Really hard to tell. I think the sort of death metal is probably having its sort of a new boom or a new wave going on. To be honest, I lost the track about the bands, but I'm really happy that the young musicians and new coming bands are doing death metal.
What about you?
Well, I'm not a professional guy to say anything about melodical death metal.
You're pretty established.
Yeah. But I think I'm more into like traditional death metal for like bands like Entombed or Grave or that kind of stuff. They are not that melodic. For example, two bands from Finland, Insomnium or Omnium Caterum, I think they are great. So I think melodic death metal is growing up all the time, and it's for me it sounds more like a old school style again.
Finally, so what does Queen of Time mean for the two of you?
I see it an honor to all the females in the world. All the queens in the world. Yeah.
No, it's well, the album itself it represents probably the future for Amorphis and might give a little hint in where we are heading in future. I would like to give an honor to all the bees that are flying around.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having a chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, dude.